Finally, the third type of function are source functions. So let me show you what those look like. We open it. This one is a little bit different, right? We don't have track calls. We don't have identify calls here. Instead, we just have a request. So we get the on request, then we have the request and perhaps some settings. If we have any, we can do the same thing as before. Now, Segment has created an API here you can test or where the data will be sent. There is some authentication you'll need to do based on your account, your user login to create the token necessary to authenticate this. But effectively, Segment will be receiving webhooks from your service with some kind of JSON object that you can then modify in different ways. Now, I'm not going to send a webhook. Instead, I'm just going to copy and paste the same payload that we have been working with so far. We know, of course, that when this payload comes in, it will have some kind of headers, maybe some kind of authentication that we can validate. And then we have a bunch of data here in the JSON object. And here on the left, then once a request comes in and is successful, then we have the ability to fire Segment events. Now, if you work with any of the SDKs so far, like the Analytics SDK or the iOS, Android, you'll likely recognize some of these things. We're effectively just firing track calls or identify calls or group calls. So if you look at the track call, once a request comes in, we can then fire an event. Effectively, you can take bits and pieces from the request that came in and then pass it into just a regular track call, identify call, and so forth.